Okay, I am just going through this one problem I left on the board in a couple of my classes about a car that's purchased for $24,000 and it depreciates. That means it loses its value at a rate such that we know that it loses half of its value every 4 years. Okay, so using the equation from the board that I gave you, write an equation that's an exponential equation to model the value of the car over time. And then answer how much is the car worth after 2, 7, and 15 years, and then finally when will the car be worth $5,000 and $1,000. Okay, so to do that I'm going to minimize that. We've got our calculator here. I'm going to type in the equation. If you want to pause me and write that equation, that would be wise. And I'm assuming that you're back now, and I'm going to type it in. The equation is the initial value 24,000, no commas of course, and then that's our initial value times, and then I'm going to use 1/2 1 divided by 2 and close parentheses, and then I'm going to raise it to, and then also in parentheses our variable x found right there, and then divided by that doubling time period, or in this case a halving time period, or what's often called a half-life. So that's 4 years till it loses half of its life, or half of its value, I mean. Okay, with that equation typed in, then I'm going to go to the window, because in a real world problem, don't try to use your standard window. Just ask yourself some sensible questions about your max and minimums for X, which in this case, that's the years you might own a car. Well, it's impossible to own it for fewer than 0 years. When it's brand new, that is year 0. And then typically you could own a car for maybe 20 years, 25 years. So I'll put in 20. If we need to modify that later, we can. And then I'll make my scale marks every 2 years. The smallest value of a car is going to be 0. The largest value of the car is going to be 24,000. The decay problems are a little bit easier because you know your upper limit and you know it can go down to 0. And then I'm going to have my scale marks every, we'll say every 2,000. Okay, and if I hit graph, I should get quite a nice sensible looking graph. There's the value of the car at the peak, and it loses its value as it goes over time. Looks like it's down to pretty small over 20 years. Now to answer questions though, we can just quit out of this for a second, and we can actually type the actual numbers in from our question into that equation, which was 24,000, and then times, and then I'll use 0.5 just to illustrate, it doesn't matter, 0.5 caret to the in parentheses. The first one was, I think, after 2 years, so 2 divided by 4. Now you could do that in your head and say 0.5 again, and that's that value. If I want to do 24,000 and then times 0.5 caret to the, I think it was 7 years, I'll put in 7 divided by 4, close parentheses, hit enter, and that's that value. The car will go down to about $7,000, and I'll let you do it for the remaining one in the question. But now we want to know, when is the car going to be worth exactly $5,000? So to do that, I go back to my graph and I'll say, well, I want to see when it gets to this value of 5,000. If I go to trace, I can just go along and see until the value there is at 5,000. Well, there's 4,700, and there's 4,916. That's going to be very close. That's 9.14 years. And then it jumps to 5,100, and that's 8.9 years. So that's going to be very, very close. To find the exact value, however, it's best to go back to this equation and then just type in the value that you're interested in seeing where it is exactly. In this case, $5,000. And then when I graph, I'll get a straight line right at that level, and I can find where these two cross by just going to second, trace, and then intersect. Option number 5 is the intersect in our calculate, and then I just say yes, that's the first curve, yes, that's the second curve, and then hit enter, and then I get the exact intersection point at 9.05 years. So a little bit more than 9 years will be $5,000. Okay, so that's how you do that one. You can type that in and find out what it's going to be for $1,000 how many years that will be. All right, thank you very much.